Finding the Lost City of El Dorado. The Adventures of Aaron Cade. Deep in the Amazon, there's a legend whispered by explorers and treasure hunters for centuries. El Dorado, a city made of pure gold. They say its king was so rich, he'd cover himself in gold dust and dive into a sacred lake as an offering to the gods. Many have searched for this shimmering kingdom, but none have ever returned with proof. Until now. A thick emerald mist clung to the treetops as I pressed deeper into the Amazon rainforest. My map of fragile parchment I'd found in a forgotten monastery beneath the Great Wall was almost complete. It now pointed to a final symbol, a radiant sun hovering over a lake. The clue was cryptic but clear. Find the hidden valley where the Golden King bathes in eternal light. I tightened the straps on my pack, the worn leather creaking in the humid air. This is it, I whispered to myself, my voice barely audible above the hum of the jungle. El Dorado. The rainforest felt alive, almost sentient. Flocks of parrots with feathers like jewels burst from the branches above me, their calls echoing through the dense canopy. The air was thick with the roar of distant waterfalls and the sweet scent of damp earth and exotic flowers. Vines as thick as my arm draped over ancient, crumbling pathways, like curtains guarding a long-lost stage. After hours of hacking through the undergrowth, I finally found them. Moss-covered steps carved directly into the face of a cliff. Each one seemed to glow faintly, and when I looked closer, I saw tiny gold flakes embedded within the stone. A shiver of excitement ran down my spine. I was on the right path. I began to climb, my boots slipping on the slick, green moss. The ascent was steep, my lungs burning with each step. Suddenly, I heard a sharp crack. A stone under my foot shifted, and in an instant, a volley of arrows shot out from hidden slots in the wall. I dove behind a massive, gnarled root, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. The arrows thudded into the wood just inches from my head. After a moment of silence, I let out a shaky breath. Still better than last time in the Peruvian tombs. I laughed nervously to myself, trying to calm my racing pulse. I pushed myself up and continued onward, more cautiously this time. Finally, I reached the top and found myself standing before a towering stone archway. Carved around its edge were symbols I recognized from my research. A figure covered in shimmering dots, its arms raised to the sky. The Gilded King. I took a deep breath and stepped through the archway. The sight that greeted me made me gasp. Before me lay a perfectly still, mirror-smooth lake. It wasn't the water itself that was remarkable, but the light. An ethereal golden glow seemed to rise from beneath its surface, illuminating the entire clearing. The air itself shimmered with tiny, dancing sparks, as if sunlight had been trapped here for 1,000 years. This must be the sacred lake, I murmured, walking slowly toward its edge. A gentle warmth radiated from the water, beckoning me closer. In the center of the lake stood a small stone platform. As I got nearer, I could see words etched into the stone ringing the shore, written in an ancient, flowing script. It was a language few had ever seen, but I'd spent years studying fragments of it. I knelt down and traced the letters with my finger, translating the phrase aloud. Gold is not the treasure. The pure of heart is. What did it mean? Was this another trap? Another riddle? I reached out my hand and tentatively touched the water's surface. The moment my fingers made contact, the lake rippled, and the golden light intensified, pulsing with a new, vibrant energy. Right before my eyes, the calm water began to swirl, faster and faster, forming a shimmering, silent whirlpool at its center. This was it, the entrance. There was no turning back now. I took one last, deep breath of the jungle air and dove in. The water wrapped around me like warm silk. It wasn't cold or shocking, but felt welcoming. Gold dust sparkled all around me, rising from the depths like millions of tiny stars. The whirlpool wasn't violent. It pulled me downward gently, guiding me through a spiraling tunnel of light. I held my breath, trusting the ancient inscription. After what felt like an eternity, the descent slowed, and I emerged into a vast, air-filled space. I surfaced, sputtering, and gasped for air. And then I saw it. El Dorado. It was real. I was floating in an enormous underground cavern, lit not by the sun, but by the city itself. Golden towers soared from the cavern floor, reaching for a ceiling dripping with glowing crystals. Graceful bridges arched between shimmering pillars, connecting walkways that seemed to be paved with solid light. Waterfalls of what looked like liquid sunlight poured down the walls, cascading into pools of molten gold. The entire city pulsed with a warm, gentle radiance. High above, birds crafted from pure gold soared through the air, leaving sparkling trails in their wake. I felt tears sting my eyes as I stood there, overwhelmed by the impossible beauty of it all. I found it the real El Dorado. I pulled myself from the water and stepped onto a golden pathway. My boots made no sound. As I took my first step forward, a deep, rumbling voice echoed through the cavern from behind me. A figure began to form out of the swirling golden dust in the air. It grew taller and more defined, taking on the shape of a man regal, proud, and crowned with feathers and gemstones made of pure light. He looked exactly like the gilded king from the legends. "Traveler," the guardian said, his voice a low, resonant hum. "Why have you come?" I knew this was a test. Greed would get me nowhere. I bowed respectfully, my head lowered. "I seek knowledge, not wealth," I said, my voice steady despite my awe. "Your story survived only in fragments, twisted into tales of greed. I want to understand your people and honor what was lost to the world above." The guardian studied me for a moment, his glowing eyes seeming to peer right into my soul. Then his stoic expression softened into a smile. "Then you are worthy." He raised his hand, and a glowing chest materialized out of thin air before him, decorated with ancient, intricate symbols. "Inside is our greatest treasure," the guardian explained. "A golden tablet containing the wisdom of our people, our laws, our stories, and the secret of our harmony with the earth. This knowledge is more valuable than all the gold in this cavern. Carry it into your world, so that our light, our culture, will never truly fade." He gestured for me to open it. I lifted the heavy lid. Inside, resting on a bed of velvet, lay a radiant tablet. It was warm to the touch, like holding a piece of the sun, and covered in beautiful, flowing inscriptions. The collected knowledge of a lost civilization. Just as I lifted the tablet, the entire cavern began to tremble. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and deep cracks spread across the golden pillars. "Time grows short," the guardian warned, his form starting to flicker. "The gateway cannot remain open for long. Go." I clutched the tablet to my chest and ran. Pillars cracked and crumbled around me, and the golden city began to dissolve back into shimmering dust. I didn't look back. I leapt from the pathway back into the lake, just as the ground beneath it split open. The whirlpool was reversing now, pushing me upward with a powerful current. I burst through the surface of the lake, gasping for air, the precious tablet held tight in my arms. I turned to look back. The whirlpool was gone. The lake was once again perfectly still, its golden glow now soft and gentle, as if it were bidding me farewell. I held the golden tablet to my chest, its warmth seeping through my shirt. "El Dorado isn't lost," I whispered to the quiet jungle. "It lives on." At sunset, I climbed a ridge overlooking the vast expanse of the Amazon. The tablet, safely stored in my pack, glowed gently with its own internal light. I pulled out my compass and looked toward the horizon. One legend was found, its true treasure saved from oblivion. A smile spread across my face. One more legend found. Now, where does the next map lead? And with that thought, with renewed excitement and wonder burning inside me, I took my next step into the unknown. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. If you want to see where the next map leads, make sure to follow and subscribe. You never know what we'll find next.